One thing that we should be able to agree upon is that the situation on our southern border is unacceptable, just from a starting point. Now, in February, after months of negotiations, a bipartisan coalition in the U.S. Senate unveiled a national security supplemental that included a bipartisan border agreement proposing the most significant border security reforms in nearly 30 years. And at President Biden's request, the agreement included over $20 billion for border policy changes, including adding more than 1,500 new Customs and Border Protection personnel. It added a ton of funding for anti-fentanyl and anti-human trafficking provisions. And the bipartisan agreement also included $1.4 billion for cities and states that are now currently forced to provide services to migrants. And I know that for my district, which includes the city of Boston and the state of Massachusetts in general, that funding is critical. Massachusetts is currently spending about $75 million a month. So we're up over $1 billion in the past year to shelter over 7,500 families. Meanwhile, in my own district, in the city of Boston, I have 42,000 U.S. citizen families waiting for on the waiting list for public housing. 42,000 just in the city. I have 180,000 American families, citizens, who are on the list, so they're basically housing insecure, as they say now, right on the edge of homelessness. So there's about 180,000. So the migrant problem is just on top of that, right, with resources and also because of the emergency nature of the situation. And I want to say, in fairness to the governor of Massachusetts and my colleagues in the legislature, I used to serve in the legislature, this is not on them. This is not on them. This problem starts at the border. We own this, we in Congress. We own this problem. And I know that some of my state colleagues are getting a lot of heat on this, but they don't have any control over the solution. Personally, I would welcome the opportunity to debate and amend and vote on a border security bill. And I know, look, I know the agreement in the Senate is far from perfect, but that's what legislating is about. I would just ask them to send the bill to the House. We will take it up. We will have to tweak it. That happens with every single bill that comes before the legislature here. We'll have to figure it out. There will be some things I don't like, and there'll be some things that I think we desperately need that will be included. But this is our job. This is our responsibility. People are afraid. People are afraid. So some of that fear is driven by inflammatory rhetoric, but some of it is real. Some of it is the data that we've heard here this morning. But we have a responsibility to the people that we represent to take up a bill, to figure this out, to move away from the model that we have right now. I've been down to the southern border multiple times with Republicans and Democrats on this committee. I've gone to El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras to try to figure out the push factors that are driving. Look, I remember we had shooting wars in Honduras and Nicaragua and El Salvador. We did not see the levels of immigration during those shooting wars that we now see at the border. So there's something else going on there. There's an industry behind this that is actually recruiting. First of all, they're pushing a narrative, if you get into the United States, you can stay, which is false. But they're pushing that narrative, and they're moving people to the border. And the president should have the ability, authorized by Congress, if we see 30,000 people coming to this border, to our border, and we know it will overwhelm the system that we have at the border, to regulate the flow of people into this country and to figure out who they are, why they're coming, we should have the ability, the president should have the ability to declare an emergency and close that border until we regulate the flow to something that the current judicial system, the asylum system, can actually assimilate. and to judge those people based on who they are and why they are attempting to come into our country. But that's not happening right now. That's not happening right now. So I'm just urging my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, bring a bill to the floor. Let's let regular order try to figure this out. You won't get everything you want, but neither will we on this side of the aisle. But we will make it a better situation for everyone involved. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.